going on? Today I'm super pumped because I have my wonderful friend Nathan here. We are doing a book talk on Order of the Phoenix.
Best book.
Best book ever. So, I mean,
where do we start?
Where do we start?
It's such a big book.
I know, there's so many things. This is definitely going to be a book talk versus a review because I mean, like, everybody and their dog has read Harry Potter. Yeah. I hope. If you haven't read Harry Potter,
go read it now.
What are you doing with your life?
Like, go to your Kindle, library. I read all of the Harry Potter books from the library. And the only copy I own is The Deathly Hallows because I pre-ordered like 2 months in advance.
But I guess I can't judge him too much because, to be honest, I wouldn't own them all either if I didn't have such a wonderful boyfriend who bought me the entire beautiful adult cover set.
So pretty.
Yes.
So
I basically cried when he gave them to me.
I just really want to talk about Umbridge right now.
Let's do it!
I want to jump into probably the most hated character out of everything.
Out of everything. I actually saw like a survey or a poll, I don't remember what it was, but it was like most hated villains in the history of books, and Umbridge was number one. And for a very good reason. Yeah. Like, this character, she's so well written, and that's what makes her so...
Exactly.
That's what makes her so hated.
Even, like, Voldemort, we're supposed to hate Voldemort. I found myself liking him. Like, he was just such a good, evil character, well-written, evil character, well-rounded. And when it came to Umbridge, I'm like, I actually hate, like,
just, like, hate
reading it, like,
I know.
inside.
Like, even more, and that's what that poll said, was people hate Umbridge more than they hate Voldemort. And I can 100% say that is accurate on my part.
Most people probably hate Umbridge more than they hate Joffrey.
I don't even know if I could make a choice. Joffrey or Umbridge. Who would I want to go out for coffee with more?
A White Walker. Or a Dementor. A Dementor. I would rather have a Dementor sucking the happiness out of me at our coffee date than sit across the table from Umbridge and Joffrey.
I don't know. Like, would you say she is deluded in thinking that she is doing it for a good cause, or is she just solely like she seems to just be kind of on a power trip? When
we read more about her later in the series, she's a sick, twisted person, but when you read the beginning of Dolores Umbridge, she actually, like, power tripped from Hogwarts. She became, like, this warrior, and then as soon as she became secretary to the minister, it was like just power to the metal to her power trip.
Yeah, she's very protective of her position. This Defense Against the Dark Arts class, Hermione isn't always a desirable friend because she's just so obsessed with perfection. No. But it's just, I think one of her best moments was where she, like, kept sticking her hand up and was like, are we actually going to do any of the spells that we're learning? And this Defense Against the Dark Arts class was absolutely ridiculous. They're like, how are we going to learn to defend ourselves if we're not actually learning to defend ourselves?
Especially now with this Voldemort, this lingering, Voldemort's back,
Seriously, though.
What's going to, like, how are we going to defend her?
Well, that's the frustrating thing, is everybody there knows. Like, it would be like being put in a situation where you know you're in danger, but not being allowed to learn how to defend yourself. All her rules are ridiculous. They're just flat out ridiculous.
It's like it's like the church in, like, the 18th century.
Oh, I loved it.
In life, I've always liked the evil characters.
Well, I like it when they're well developed. Like, I can say I have favorite villains just simply because they're so convincing, but that doesn't mean that I would want to know them in person.
Yeah. My favorite Umbridge scenes is she's starting to tiptoe with how much power she has at Hogwarts or not, and, like, how much the ministry is going to support her and everything, is when she's firing Sybil Trelawney. That's where we see where her power and her authority as the High Inquisitor actually ends, because then Dumbledore steps in, and she hates Half-Bloods. She hates anything that isn't pure blood status.
She's just a racist.
Which is it's equivalent to a racist. In Harry Potter world, it's a racist, someone who is discriminating against anything lower than pure blood. But what's even more funny is when J.K. Rowling actually created more of a character to Dolores Umbridge. Dolores Umbridge is actually a half-blood.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, having somebody in authority that, like, has so much control, but obviously is so much in the wrong, is just like, it sparks so much anger. When she decides to use the Cruciatus Curse, that's the moment where we see for sure that she's not in it just for the good. Yeah. Like, she's not just delusional, she's just in it for herself and her own power, because she's like, the ministry will never know. Like, that's what she was saying. So we know that it's not just about the greater good. It's not because she is delusional and thinking that Harry is lying. She literally is just on a power trip.
My other, like, last favorite, and maybe this will be last favorite and then we'll maybe change subjects, is when the kids are doing their astronomy owl and they see Umbridge and a bunch of Aurors on premise going after Hagrid. And we see McGonagall fly out, like, basically she's like 80-something in these books, and she runs out of the castle and single-handles defends Hagrid against Umbridge and Aurors, who are like crazy skilled in magic.
McGonagall is just a hero.
How would you solve a problem like McGonagall?
One thing I was going to bring up is just like the subject of like bullying at Hogwarts. There's so much bullying that happens at Hogwarts, like between Snape constantly bullying the students and Draco Malfoy obviously constantly bullying Harry and stuff. In this book, it did kind of like you figure out sort of how it ties in. Like, she needed that bullying because Harry found out that his dad was a bully, and that is very, very significant to his story and to how he views his parents, and so it's really significant to his character development and his struggles. But just like overall, one of the frustrating things about Hogwarts to me is like, when I'm thinking about, would I want to go to Hogwarts? Obviously, 100% yes, but a part of me is like, it kind of sucks that so much bullying is allowed. And like, you can't say that the teachers don't know about it. Like, it's so obvious and nobody ever does anything about it. Reading them again, I was just like so reminded how much I love Dumbledore more in the books than in the movies. He's so patient and he knows when to react and when to not. He is just like so calm all the time, and it's perfect. My two favorite scenes in this book with Dumbledore are the one where Trelawney was being kicked out of the school, and he comes in and he's just like so calm about it, and that's what's the big slap in the face to Umbridge. It wasn't that he reacted in anger, it's just that he naturally had power, just because people respect him, and that's the way it is. And then my other favorite scene was at the end when Harry was like throwing things around in anger, just like ruining his office, and he was just sitting there, and Harry was like upset that he wasn't reacting, and he's just like, well, go ahead, keep throwing things around, destroying my things, because God knows I have way too many things.
Dumbledore has always been there to help Harry.
He's such a prominent
thing. This book, we just like the reigns with Dumbledore, like, and then all of a sudden it was like but I think he did it to develop, like, to get Harry to not always rely so on much Dumbledore.
On him. He couldn't be there without putting both of them in danger, but like, this definitely serves, like, you feel Harry's frustration throughout the book, just like, where in the world is Dumbledore? Like, why isn't he stepping in? Like, even with Umbridge and stuff, and he kind of just like comes into the story whenever like it's very dire.
It gets bad.
Like, it gets so bad that he has to step in very briefly.
It was a big character shot because he's such a big, prominent supporting, I call him a supporting character because that's kind of what a supporting character does, is they help the antagonist go further in the storyline. One of my favorite ones is when they confront Dumbledore in his office.
Umbridge, that was another moment that was just like, he handled it so perfectly, and the movies just didn't do it justice.
They confront Dumbledore and they're like, well, Dumbledore, you're not doing an adequate job of teaching students, you're basically fired. And Dumbledore's like, you're not adequate, bye-bye.
Obviously.
And then he like, Fox comes and he's like,
I love Fox.
And then just disappears into fire, and Harry's like, alright, we're officially screwed. Dumbledore has left the premise. In any book that I've read, in any movie or TV series, I really like a good action scene. And we see Voldemort and Dumbledore meet in the Ministry, and it's just this big, epic battle. We hear that Dumbledore is big, like, he's a powerful, mighty wizard in, like, the first 4 books, and we don't actually see anything until this point. And kind of the same with Voldemort. We hear about these 2 characters who are feared,
who are like the most powerful wizards.
Yeah. And we don't see anything until this moment when they start to actually fight one-on-one. It blows my mind. It blows my mind. Because they're trying to take shots, but they already see what...
They have, like, foresight. Let's move on to Harry. Because I have a lot to say about Harry's character in this book.
She does.
When you have a series this long, what I definitely look for, and one of my, like, main critiques is, like, you need to give me great character development since you're spending so much time. There's so many. There needs to be, like, pristine. Every character needs to be, like... You need to see the good, the bad, and the ugly of every character.
And I think this book, we saw, like, the good, bad, and, like, the ugly
of Harry. And that's what I like about it. Like, in this book, Harry was, like, the most annoying human. Well, like, I can understand his frustration. Like, and it's like that, too, which is, like, another good aspect of character development is when you see people's flaws, you are frustrated by them, but you also understand them. And that's what it was. I was like, I get it. I understand why you're so mad. Like, I would be mad in his position, too. Every time I read that scene in, like, when he first gets to Grimmauld Place and sees Hermione and Ron, it's, like, 3 paragraphs in capital letters of him screaming at them. And it just, like, that makes me laugh. It's hilarious. It gets to the point, though, where it's just, like, flat-out bitterness. Like, he is very bitter in this book. Beyond the point of being, like, angry for a good reason, it definitely develops past that, in which I would say there's some character flaws. Gabby! Why are you meowing? So, which is fine. I like character flaws, but it's like, there were just so many things that were frustrating with me to watch. Harry just, like, there were a lot of moments when Hermione had to be like, Harry, we are on your side, stop screaming at us. And, like, we're all thinking that, like, Harry, stop being such a douche.
It's true. I think it's an ego thing as well.
Yeah.
Like, he
definitely struggles with ego for sure.
He's like, well, I'm the chosen one. Like, blah, 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 blah. I think J.K. Rowling actually, like, there's flaws, but she also wrote Harry like an average teenager.
It's just realistic.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Exactly. Which is what I like about character development, is if you don't have realism in a character, like, if Harry was just flat out, like, the boy wonder, he wouldn't be so realistic. So, like, I love his character in this book at the same time as I hate him. Another thing that really frustrated me with Harry's character in this one was his, like, just his refusal to tell people about what happened with Voldemort, and yet being angry that people weren't taking his side. Let's be honest, Harry is a horrible boyfriend. When they were in Hogsmeade, in the tea shop, and Cho was just, like, sitting there waiting for him to be all romantic, and then all of a sudden he was like, I need to go see Hermione.
Let's talk about the Black House, because it was a huge part in the book.
Yeah.
And I actually...
Barely there in the movie?
Barely there in the movie. We actually learn a lot of history behind the Black family.
Yeah.
And how actually Sirius was the big oddball. But then we learn that his older brother was also...
a Death Eater?
All the Blacks, actually. We were under the
all the
impression
Blacks
all
were
the Blacks
very,
were Death
very
Eaters.
loyal to Voldemort and his whole, like, anti-mudblood cause.
Yeah.
Which is so frustrating. He even said this to Bellatrix Lestrange. He was like, you know Voldemort is not pure blood, right? So, like, Voldemort really doesn't even make sense. He is, like, a walking contradiction. How much he hates...
He was basically... he was Hitler. Hitler was a Jew, and then something happened, and Hitler was just like, Nazis.
So true.
Which actually, J.K. Rowling based the Death Eaters and the whole Death Eater Voldemort thing off Nazi Germany and Hitler.
And it makes so much sense because he's just such a hypocrite.
Yeah. This hideout, this manor, it's weird because it represents... I mean, House of Black, you naturally think it's like, this family's like effed. Like, they're probably twisted to the core. And then we learn that it's the headquarters of the... like, one of the headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix, which stands for everything that none of the Blacks ever stood for justice and good.
And that's when you find out that, like, purebloods are mostly, like, intermingled. Like, there's a lot of, like, cousins marrying cousins and just, like, really,
it's like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, like...
It's like the Targaryens, right?
The Targaryens. Like, yeah, that's literally exactly what it is, because they just see themselves as so much better than everyone else, then why would they want to marry outside of that kind of thing?
Yeah.
So that's very, because Harry was like, you're related to the Malfoys, and Sirius was like, Harry, like, everyone's like related to everybody else. Like, we're running out of pure bloods. Like, there's not that many, so you have to sort of intermingle. So there's just like a lot of, there's just a lot of evil in the Black House. And so, the fact that they're using it as the Order of the Phoenix headquarters is just like...
bizarre.
It's so bizarre, but so good, because it's just like, justice. The death of Sirius. Let's talk about Sirius in general through this book. Oh my goodness. I don't even know where to start. In this book, it's like he's just like feeling so trapped that he is grouchy all the time. He's just like brooding all the time.
It's also like because the Ministry is like cracking down. He wanted to help as much as he could, but at the same time, they're like controlling all these ways of communication.
It's like, Sirius, for your own good, you can't leave.
Yeah.
It's just such a crappy position to be put in. He was already locked up in Azkaban for so long, and like now he's free, but he's not free at the same time, and it's just... Sirius's character is just such a tragedy. I really liked the themes they touched on with Sirius in this one, because a lot of it was like, do you see Harry as a godson like you're supposed to? Are you protecting him? Or do you see him as more of a friend? Because Sirius was always the one that was like, yeah, you should make this Defense Against the Dark Arts group. Like, do it. That's awesome. That's exactly what me and James would do. But then you have Mrs. Weasley that's always like, Sirius, like, you're supposed to be protecting him. Like, he's not James. He was almost more of an older brother, to be honest. Like, that's more so, I think, the relationship. Because even though Sirius was older, he definitely wasn't really a father figure.
I totally feel like how J.K. wrote Sirius was, I don't think Sirius ever got over the grieving process of like
absolutely. Because he was taken to Azkaban, like,
well, and like especially with the history behind James and Sirius, when he got like accused of dying or killing James and Lily and all this stuff, I don't think he actually like had time to properly grieve like basically his best friend.
Absolutely.
So then when he sees Harry, who apparently is just a striking image James, he just couldn't be the proper guardian that he was supposed to be. It was more of just like an older brother.
I actually didn't like the actor they chose for Sirius in the TV shows.
Wow.
I pictured him so, like, I like the actor. Like, he's really good in Batman and all.
Gary Oldman?
Obviously, he's an amazing actor, but I didn't like him in the role of Sirius, to be honest. You're just like so shocked. I pictured Sirius just like especially in the scene in The Prisoner of Azkaban when they first see him in the shack. I just pictured him as like dark and brooding, but in a really like sexy, mysterious way. Like even though he's like kind of no, he didn't do it for me at all. He didn't do it for me at all. It must be the mustache. Maybe the mustache.
That could do it.
I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I was just like, that mustache, I don't like it. And I just...
I think you're right. But that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. We can agree to disagree, but I just wasn't feeling it. I was just like, I do not feel attracted to this man at all. But in the books, I am so serious.
About Sirius.
So serious about Sirius. That arch is the creepiest.
It's scary.
It's so scary. Like, you stand by it, and it, like, there's that scene where Harry is being, like, drawn into it. And you can hear people whispering on the other side. That is terrifying. What do you think is beyond the veil? Like, what do you picture? Like, how did Sirius die? Tell me where Sirius is now.
The veil was actually, like, basically death. Like, it's basically the black hole.
But the fact that you can hear voices on the other side makes me feel like it's something that... it's causing me to think that, like, maybe his soul is in, like, limbo, which is a very scary concept. He is dead,
though, because, like, in the last book, when Harry gets the Resurrection Stone, he appears with Lily James and Lupin.
Oh, okay.
So he is dead.
He is dead.
He is... So I feel like...
Interesting.
I feel like the veil, then, is, like...
just a symbol of death kind of thing, but I'm just like, I'm so thrown off by those whispers though, and I just like,
okay, but you're also in a magical universe, really.
Yeah, to me it's just like such a creepy concept of like, whoa, having your soul in limbo. Like, I just keep picturing Sirius being able to, and it's just like the same theme that went through the whole book of him seeing like places he could help but not being able to help. That's sort of almost what I'm picturing with this. He is technically dead, but those voices, what a creepy concept. It's just like so unsure, and I think that's what makes his death so unsettling.
Yeah.
Is you're not sure what the veil means, and Harry didn't know what it meant. He's like, I can hear voices. Like, it's just this weird, bizarre symbol that is just like leaves you feeling so uncomfortable. Yeah. And so I think his death is just one of the most unsettling for me, especially. Like, obviously there's major deaths like Dumbledore and all that kind of stuff, but Sirius's death was just different for me in terms of I don't know what happened. Like, I don't know what this veil means, and it's never fully explained because it's like a mystery. And that's the point of the whole section that they're in, is it's Department of Mysteries. You don't know what it means. You don't know what's happening.
The book had like 3 chapters of like different books. There was a brain room.
Oh yeah,
and like
the Department of Mysteries was one of the most it was
a big thing.
Like, it was very cool.
They were in like 600 different rooms.
The development, like the world building of that one department was incredible.
So the book is called Order of the Phoenix. What is the Order of the Phoenix? I think this is a topic that kind of just needs to get brought up within because it's a badass group.
I really liked it a lot, like bringing all these awesome characters together. Like you had the Weasleys, you had Lupin, which is like one of my favorite characters for sure. Mad-Eye Moody, Sirius, and then Snape. You saw a lot of it brought this whole concept of like Snape, everybody insisting like, yeah, he's a good guy now, but you're never sure. You are never sure with Snape right up until the end of the series. You don't know for sure. What she did with Snape's character is one of my favorite things throughout the series. You're just never sure. There's no point not a single point in which you're certain whether Snape is good or not. You never know. And so like, I will over and over say J.K. Rowling is just such a good writer. And like, as you were talking to the Department of Ministries, like in the book, it is so good and so well written, and like the ideas that she pulled out of her head, like they're so creative.
This is a theme that eventually spread to the last few books, is the difference between the Muggle, like normal people world versus like the magical world. Because the first 4 books, we know that, you know, wizards and muggles are, like, different. They do...
Separate worlds.
They do. And then, in the beginning, Harry gets attacked by Dementors.
Yeah, so all of a sudden the 2 worlds are weird. They're, like, in the middle of the Muggle world.
So what used to be, like, a protective and also, like, a divide between everything, it begins to clash with now the rise of Voldemort.
What side do you take when they were like debating about what to tell Harry or not? So you had like Mrs. Weasley. This was like an interesting scene for me because they're all sitting at the table and they're trying to decide, like they're arguing very passionately about what to tell Harry. And Harry, of course, is like, tell me everything. Like, I have a right to know. Mrs. Weasley is like, no, you're too young. You're only... How old is he in this book? 16?
15.
15. And then you have Sirius, who's like somewhere in the middle. Like, he wants to protect Harry, but at the same time, he knows that he's been through enough where he can handle it. So... I didn't know whose side I wanted to take. Like, I think I most identify with Harry. Like, obviously, like, if I was in that position, Mrs. Weasley would have been crossing a line for me where she's like, obviously, I treasure her, and you're a motherly figure in my life, but she has to remember that she's not my mom. But I also see, like, Mrs. Weasley's point. Like, if it was my kid, I'd be like, ah.
Well, and I think, like, because Harry doesn't have a mom and dad.
Yeah.
And throughout the whole series, actually, we see all these fatherly figures, but we don't see a mother figure.
That's true.
And so I feel like Mrs. Weasley, we only really see as like a main mother figure. So I think I feel like she has a right. Like, you may think not, but I think...
No, I think she does to a certain extent.
She has the right to basically treat Harry like a Weasley, like one of her own.
It's so hard to pick a side.
It is.
It's so hard. Like, and it's like blurred lines,
because, like, personally, if I was in that situation, I'd be like, yeah, I want to know everything because I feel like I have a right.
Yeah.
I have a right to know what's going on. It's not your life this is affecting. It's my life. It's, like, all this has happened because of me and my everything. Like, I think I should know. But at the same time, I think... Mrs. Weasley was looking out to keep his innocence.
Yeah. I appreciated the development with Mrs. Weasley in this book, with her, like, when she went to get rid of that Bogart upstairs, and then it turned into, like, everybody in her life dead. Yeah. So you see that is a huge issue for her, and she's, like, literally, like, afraid. One of my favorite scenes is where Harry ends up like viewing this memory in the whatchamacallit, the pensive. Like, when I first read it, I was like, okay, I would assume that they bullied him a lot, so what makes this particular memory significant? Lily is what makes it significant. When he called her a mudblood, yes, that is why it's his worst memory. And oh my gosh, that's just like, I love that. I love it. That's what made this memory so good to me, was how she set us up to believe one way, but then not until the end of the series, we find out that it is not that at all. Not that at all.
Or the Phoenix, it was just one of those books. It's just, it was the book that started to finish. Like, it basically was like
started the beginning of the end.
Everything up.
Beginning of the end. Yes. But in such a good way. I think that is all we're going to say about Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Overall, obviously, what a wonderful book.
Great book.
There's no words, really. I mean, we could go on and on forever about everything, and we would never be done talking. Like, it would never cover it. It's just so good. It's so good. So, I think we're going to drop it now, though. I think we've said everything we really were burning desire to say. Let us know in the comments what you think. Like, what were your favorite parts of the book? Like, what parts are just, like, even in perspective of the whole series, like, what do you love about Order of the Phoenix? I'll put all of our information below for you. Give us a shout in the comments or on Twitter or, like, whatever you want. Yes. I hope you enjoyed our collaboration. We're going to get together again because we've decided to do book talks on all 3 of the last books of Harry Potter. And you never know, maybe we'll go back and do book talks on the first 4 as well. Why not?
We might, because I started to read the Harry Potter series at this book. So I read Order of the Phoenix, Half-Blood Prince, Deathly Hallows.
And then went back.
And then
so it'll be like a tribute to when you first discovered
how I read this.
When you first discovered Harry Potter. I would never start a series in the middle of the series. That would never happen in my life.
I watched the movies.
Oh,
see, I read this book. Fun fact, I read this book because I wanted to compare the movie to the book. So
and clearly the book was so much better.
I picked up that book 2 weeks before the movie came out to theaters, and I actually finished it in 3 days.
Oh my god. Yeah, this is like a marathon-worthy book, though. Like,
it is.
You just, keep reading. Yeah. Like, if you guys are interested in some Harry Potter live shows, live discussions that you can even get involved with, let me know in the comments that you're interested, because that's something I will definitely look at doing. So, yeah, let us know. I'll definitely have him back. Maybe even next time we can get Brittany in on it. Like, she just recently read Harry Potter, too.
We will do, like, a view setting. It'll be like, welcome to the View.
Welcome to the View.
Where we're talking about Harry Potter. I'm Joy Baker.
So yeah, let us know if that's something you'd be interested in seeing, and we'll definitely, I like taking your suggestions, so yeah, we'll roll with that, because these videos do get kind of long. I know, I understand. I get it. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and we hope you're having a fantastic weekend. Fantastic, magical, non-muggle day. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Bye, guys.
Bye!